So let's talk about these Dallas Mavericks and how they have really turned things around. And a lot of it was due to injuries. They had key rotational pieces that were out. Derek Lively II was out during the season. In fact, he sprained his knee last Sunday, and there's no timetable for him. They're saying 2 weeks, but Jason Kidd did say yesterday he could be out for the rest of the season. That would be a devastating blow for the Mavericks. Josh Green is out. Even Luca is out tonight as they're playing the Warriors right now. Last time I checked, they're up by 11 against Golden State. But, they picked up Gafford, they picked up PJ Washington, which I thought were really good moves because it added depth to the front court. They added some more wing depth and, they filled out their roster. Obviously, Derek Lively being hurt is a huge loss, especially if he doesn't come back, because I think his presence is so important for lob threats and for rim protection. When he came out the gate to start the season, he was really impressive to me, and I like him in his upside. And I think he has a lot of potential to bring to the Mavericks going forward, especially for the future. And I want to bring up some stats with the Dallas Mavericks, some things that have really stood out really since post trade deadline. So first off, obviously they're 20-6. They were 26-23 at one time. Now they're 46-30. So they've really turned things around because of health. Kyrie was also out. He came back in early February, I believe. So having your second option does make a big difference. Another thing is they have the third best offense at 119.1 points per 100 possessions. They have the seventh best defense, 111.4 points a game. And then the Mavs have won 7 of 9 games without making more than 12 3-pointers a game. Now, before that only happened 12 times before the trade deadline. The reason why that's a good sign is because they're learning how to win games without relying on the three so much. And in the NBA, the three-point shot is a big thing. The Boston Celtics make the most and they attempt the most. And I think in the playoffs, the threes are not always going to fall. And if you have another way to win basketball games, well, that's going to build confidence on your roster and with your teammates. Now, the thing that I think about when it comes to the Mavericks is the what if. What if this team was healthy, right? They started out really hot too, and then the injuries started happening in December. Like I said, with key rotational pieces. Even Tim Hardaway Jr. had an injury at one point. So they didn't get a chance to build enough chemistry. And now they have this roster where they're gelling. And I really like the fact that they're playing really good defense. You see, in 2022, the reason why the Dallas Mavericks had such an amazing run to the Western Conference Finals, a big part of that was their defense. They could lock some people up. I believe they had either the third or number one defensive rating. I know they were top 5, and they could really play some defense. They had a lot of versatile wings, and you see similarities to this roster. We have versatile wings. Last year, it was a struggle because they lost some key rotational pieces. They traded away Dorian Finney-Smith, obviously in that Kyrie trade. So there was a lot of transition with the roster, and then they missed the playoffs, which to me I don't make a big deal about because at the end of the day you got Derek Lively II, who is a phenomenal center when he's healthy. Now the Mavericks just got to figure out this last 6 games, because if Derek Lively's out, and I think he's out for 2 weeks, and he's not back, that's a huge blow, because I think with him in the lineup, this team fully healthy is a top 4 team in the Western Conference. I don't think there's any debate about that. In fact, I'll go as far as to say they probably would have finished in the top 3 this year, because this team was elite, when healthy, and you have Kyrie playing his role. Obviously with Kyrie and his injury history, he just needs to play enough games, and he's healthy at the right time of the season. But this team right now, I think if they're healthy, they could definitely make it to the Western Conference Finals, even the NBA Finals, if things fall right for them. Because the toughest team they're going to run into is the Denver Nuggets. No disrespect to OKC. No disrespect to the Timberwolves, but when I'm looking at the best player on the basketball court, it's going to be Luka Doncic. The inexperience of the Thunder concerns me. I know SGA is a phenomenal player, but we got to see it in the playoffs. We know that Karl-Anthony Towns hasn't really showed up yet in the playoffs, so he's got a point to prove. We know Ant's going to show up, but again, the Wolves have had their offensive lows and have struggled at times on the offensive side. Defensively, I think they're elite. I think the Wolves are an elite defensive team. But the Mavericks have Luka Doncic, and I think that's a huge difference. Now, matchups are important for the Mavericks. I don't think you want to face the Nuggets in the first round, because that's going to be a tall order for the Mavericks to overcome. Could they beat them? Maybe, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's better if they face Denver later in the playoffs, so they have some confidence, they build some more chemistry, and they have even more momentum. So if they go into that series knowing that, hey, we just got to get a W in Denver, or maybe 2 wins, it's better to do that later in the playoffs than early in the playoffs, because that's a lot of pressure, right? So I think with the Dallas Mavericks, I like where they're heading. I really do. I think the Mavericks just have to make sure they get as healthy as possible and continue to build the right habits. So what do I mean by that? Defensively, if you're top 10 with this group, continue to get better on that end. Last night, I watched some of that Hawks game, and they only held them to 14 points in the fourth quarter, 24 in the third. They started out really hot. I think the Hawks scored 31 points in the first quarter against Dallas, and Dallas slowed them down the rest of the way. That's a good sign because if they're building the right habits defensively, that's going to bode well for them in the playoffs. Now, I know Trae Young didn't play last night, but the Hawks, they can put up some points. And I just don't want to brush the Mavericks defense to the side because they weren't that good at one point early in the season. But again, injuries happen. So we don't know how they would have been early in the season on defense. This is the team I think that would have been, consistent throughout the season if they were healthy. And when you don't have your key pieces in the playoff, not in the playoffs, but in the regular season, they're going in and out of the lineup. That can be hard to deal with because you need your guys as healthy as possible. And you need depth. It's important, especially in a long season. But they're clicking at the right time. So for me, the Mavericks just got to keep this up. Now, I know Luka's not playing tonight. If they can beat Golden State tonight, that would be a huge win. I do want to look at the rest of their schedule with Dallas. I know that the Pelicans and the Mavericks are on. I'm sorry, not the Suns are on their heels right now. But we have the Rockets coming up. That's in Houston. That's at home. They should beat Houston, but they're a young team. They're still going to be fighting and scrapping. Obviously, you don't want to just overlook them. And Luka needs to be healthy for that game. You go to Charlotte, that should be a W. You go to Miami, who knows? That could be a tough one because Miami is fighting for the play-in or getting the sixth spot. We'll see how that turns out. The Pistons, that should be a win. And the Thunder, I don't know because the Thunder might be still playing for the number 1 seed. So Dallas needs to make sure. I think ideally for them is to go 4-2 or 5-1 in these last 6 games. Because going 3-3, I don't know if that's ideal, especially when you have the Suns and Pelicans at game behind them. Now they got some tough opponents as well down the stretch, but for Dallas, just continue to play good basketball. Continue to just secure the top 6 seed in the West and try to avoid Denver if you can, assuming Denver finishes third. They lost to the Clippers last night. Obviously, Jamal Murray didn't play in that game, but still, you don't want to deal with the Nuggets in the first round. I don't think that's a recipe for success. So when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks future, I like what they've done. You bring in Derek Lively II to the draft. Kyrie is filling his role and finding his identity in Dallas. You picked up Gafford, you picked up PJ Washington. All of a sudden, the Mavericks are on the come up. And you want to keep Luka happy. I think the next thing is continuing to develop the right habits defensively going into next season. Like, don't take a step back. Like after 2022, you missed the playoffs last year. That's not a good idea. Make sure you continue to trend in the right direction. And I think the key to this progress in their development is Derek Lively II. I know he has some injuries this year, and sometimes rookies, early on in their career, they have some injuries because of the pace of the game and, you're adapting to what's going on in the NBA. That could be a factor. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But if he can stay healthy and continue to develop his game and become not just a lob threat, but a defensive menace and a real elite defender in this league, that's going to keep Luka happy because now you have a guy he can rely on outside of just Kyrie and the role players. So it's critical for Dallas to make sure they continue to go in the right direction, have an identity, because I think defensively they've got potential, right? You've got Lively, you got Gafford, PJ Washington. I know they have Derek Jones on his team as well. So Dallas has some pieces. Another thing is just draft the right guys. Continue to do that. They've done a good job there. Or trade for a guy. You maybe go after a guy like Malik Monk this offseason because he could be imagine a 6-man like him coming off the bench giving you some firepower. That would be scary and a lot of fun to watch. I don't want to forget about Dante Exum. He's been a really good, solid role player for them as well. For Dallas, the way they ended last season, how they ended this season, it's really impressive to me. And I think next year this team has potential to be a top 3 team in the Western Conference because Luka is amazing. Now, for his MVP case, it's going to be tough. Now, he's putting up some awesome numbers. I don't want to dismiss that. He's putting up some phenomenal, out of this world numbers. But when you're in a specific era where players are getting MVPs, it's like living in the era of Curry and LeBron and then Giannis guys MVPs. I still think we're in the era of Jokic and Embiid. Now, if Embiid was fully healthy this year and didn't miss games, he was running away with the MVP. The numbers he was putting up was like video game numbers. It was insane what he was doing. 36 a night, 6 assists. I don't remember the rebounds, but the guy was cooking. And then you look at when James Harden got traded, he had to adjust and make Maxey the second guy. They were a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, Embiid would have won it this year. But I think next year or the following year, Luka is up next. I really believe that because Luka's numbers, you can't just dismiss them. The media some people just hate him. I saw something from Stephen A. where he didn't have Luca in his top five. That was insane to me. I was like, bro, what are you talking about? The numbers he's putting up and the field goal percentage, the statistics are just something I've never seen before. So again, I think Jokic will win it. There's no hate on Luca at all. There's no like, oh, I hate Luca. No, no, no. I just think it's tough right now because even though Jokic may not be putting up like 34 points, he's still putting up like 26, 18 rebounds, and 15 assists a night. It's insane what he's doing. So again, Luca and the Mavs, they're in a good spot. Mavericks fans, you should be really excited about this team and where they're headed. As long as they continue to build the right habits and just have a great playoff run. Let's just say they face the Nuggets in the second round. You're losing a tough 7-game series. No need to hang your head over that. You come back next year stronger with the experience you get out of that series. Who knows? You might be looking at the Mavericks as a possible either finals contender or winning a championship. I don't think that they're that far off. We'll see what happens with them in this playoff run. And obviously, health is going to be a key. That's always a key with everybody. But I think Lively just needs to get more reps and get more experience. And they continue to add the right pieces around Luca and, keep Kyrie happy. Kyrie's been fine with Dallas. Seems like he's getting along well. We'll see. Obviously, we'll see because we know Kyrie can be up and down. I still think her end well with Dallas. And yeah, we'll see where Dallas heads. I like this team a lot, and I think they got a lot of potential. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode today. Love to hear your thoughts on where you see Dallas. Do you think they're contenders right now? Do you think like it's going to come down to health, or do you think they're just going to be a first round knockout? Whatever you think. Love to hear from you guys. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you next time.